Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners. Just want to give you a little information about the mission of the Newsa-Cast. Our mission stems from the mission of the Red Smith Banquet, and that mission was to support youth sports in the Fox Valley. Over the 57 years of its existence, we've been honored to give out over $1 million to various youth sports organizations throughout the Fox Valley. The Newsa-Cast is looking to continue that mission and support youth sports as well. You can help us do that by donating to the Newsa-Cast and the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
On today's Newsa-Cast, MMA fighter, Appleton's only professional MMA fighter, Kegan Gennrich. Tosh and I get in, we talk about his upcoming fight, April 11th in Minnesota. Tosh and I take an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, the Red Smith Banquet Throwback 2002, legendary Wisconsin coach, GW Green Bay coach Dick Bennett. Tosh and I end the show like we always do with a little It's Forgotten, Never Forgetting. So what do you say, folks? Let's get this show on the road.
You know, you end up kind of feeling bad for your opponent sometimes afterwards, but especially in this one, he's a school teacher. He had to go back to school with his face all busted up, so I was feeling kind of bad for him about that.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Newsa-Cast. We are going hard hitting. Yeah, we're going to dive back into the grappling arena of the Newsa-Cast, and we go back MMA. We go back to Kegan, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's become a real cool friend of the show, Tosh. Yeah, well, I'm personally learning what MMA is through his journey, and he's got a title fight coming up again here in April, and we always have a great conversation. And you and I know we definitely learn a lot, and we laugh a lot.
Actually, I don't know if it's a title fight. I think he said this is just like number 1 and number 2 contender, but he says it's big. It's a huge fight because both of these guys. Well, you're going to hear in the interview, both of the Kegan and gentleman he's fighting are both like right close.
You don't want to take a crack.
I'm not
at the
taking
name,
a crack
Tosh?
at that name. I'm going to blow it. They're
Lebesnoyani.
Yeah, so there you go. You did it way better than I
Tosh,
would.
at the end of the day, Keegan's going to bloody his face just like the last guy.
I hope so.
Fought.
We want to win. So, but yeah, they said this is going to be, very close to getting to this UFC, and that's what they obviously both want. They're kind of in the minor leagues right now, but it's another great interview. We really get more into his MMA this time. Talk a little bit about state wrestling as well. Even got to mention his dad a little bit. So it's a good interview. You guys are going to love it. And as we're talking here, Joe, this is the weekend of the state wrestling tournament as well.
Yeah, definitely. You could. I have to say, Tosh, I misspoke on the championship there. My bad. Got a little too excited. I was looking at the event.
It's
poster.
pretty incredible. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, just the face off. It's the first time too, or not the first time, but both these guys are making that transition up to the 170. Yep. Yeah, 174, whatever that number is. But both the fighters are moving up as they're a couple of fights into that transition. So that's pretty cool as well. I had a laugh too. I didn't mean to change the subject back on you, Tosh, but Kegan posted on one of his socials, and this is so true because we talk about it, but he said 3 5-round title fights in a row in just over a calendar year hurts every time. Looking forward to a 3-round sprint in April.
Nice.
So yeah, feel good for Kegan. On that.
He talks a little bit about that as well. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. If you didn't get to see the state wrestling, this is pretty amazing. This was the first time that they sold out all 3 days at the Cole Center. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday were sold out. And I'm going to be honest, if you get a chance, you should probably check out the Walk of Champions on Saturday, when it's all the champions matches. And they have 4 mats going. They have the Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, and the girls all going on in the same weight classes at the same time. But when those girls and guys and boys walk out on, they dim all the lights, the music. It is pretty much, goosebumps. It's pretty incredible to see. So
yeah, no doubt.
It is probably, they have the hype video and everything else. It is crazy. It is it's pretty spectacular to check out that wrestling state tournament.
It's fun to see all these different groups learning and picking up how to do social media, because there were some really cool posts of exactly what you talked about, the overhead shot in the Kohl Center, looking down at the 4 mats and the 17,000 people that were in the arena. Man, that's just, I know a couple of our guests that, we've had through the last couple of years talked about that atmosphere. And I think about that every single time, that how electric that building had to be that night.
That's got to be incredible. I mean, it doesn't quite compare, but you're talking about like Minnesota State hockey when they sell out the XL Center in Minneapolis and St. Paul, actually, the entire thing. You have to waiting on the waiting list to get tickets for that. And that is just an absolutely incredible atmosphere as well. So it's probably not quite there yet, but 17,000 people 3 days in a row, that is absolutely nuts.
Totally nuts. You know what else was nuts one time in the Kohl Center?
Fish.
It was, Tosh. Makasupa policeman, a naked guy ran across the stage.
Everything comes back to fish, Joe. That's.
I don't think I can argue with you on that, Tosh.
So that was pretty cool. I have to shout out one of the teachers at Oshkosh North, Chris Kujawa. He was there reffing. He got a state bid this year.
Nice.
So I did tune in and I got to see him on the mats a couple times on TV. I wasn't there, but yeah, what an honor to be picked and recognized by your fellow people, fellow refs to get down the state. I know it's a pretty big honor.
Oh, that totally is. That's as high of an honor that you can get as a high school official is working state tournaments. So yeah, congratulations to him. Our friend and a Newsa-Cast friend, Travis Korth. He, I don't know if he worked state this year, but he's worked at state.
And Dan Scherenbrock
on the football
Dan
world.
Scherenbrock's been a state ref a couple times. So,
well, he was one of the guys I was thinking about when we were talking about the atmosphere, because he explained that too,
absolutely.
Right? He experienced that too as a ref, because I mean, there's a plug for being a ref. You strive to be like that. You could be right down there in front of 17,000 people.
Absolutely.
That adrenaline rush is nothing that you can find. It's insane.
Absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
What else have you been doing, Joe, besides delivering mail and dodging puddles?
Yeah, that's, no kidding, right? Yeah, it's been fun to watch the snow melt. I kind of like that. See the grass come back and the wind.
That's crazy,
Tosh,
right?
Dang, that wind has been nuts. Yeah, Tosh, I live a pretty boring life, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I thought of you and listening to one. We like to talk about food. What's your favorite potato style? If you could pick any, I mean, there's just so many, and they started to go through it, and I don't know if it's fair to pick one, maybe top 3, but
well, I guess you got to go with Jimmy Buffett and French fried potato.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly. But then you get into that world. Do you go waffle? Do you go crinkle cut? Do you go shoestring? I mean, you can. There's so many choices just within
there
that.
Are,
right?
There are. So it's a versatile food, right?
Blew my mind. I mean, most of the day, that's what I was thinking about. I mean, mashed potatoes. It's simple, but it's just. Could you imagine life without mashed potatoes?
Absolutely not. Little garlic mash.
Me either.
Yeah.
Oh, so many things you can do with that.
Well, as long as you're talking about food, we should probably shout out the Fox Cities Restaurant Week that is going on, put together by Fox Cities. Fox
Cities Convention Center. Yeah, Visitors and Convention Bureau. I don't know who within that organization works on this, but certainly Metz and Hankins a big fan of ours. They like the Newsa-Cast, and it's a cool event, right? Draws people. I bet you people come here and stay in the hotels.
Possibly. I know a lot of our communities around here have it. Oshkosh just finished up theirs a week or two ago. But the idea is you get the local restaurants, you get $30, get you a 3-course meal. You can't get a 3-course meal for under $30. So it's great. You get, dessert, you get your main course, you get your appetizer. Lots of really nice restaurants on as well. I mean, you talk about some of the best restaurants in the city, and you're going to find them for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list right now, Tosh. I mean, the Stone Arches and Ginger Roots. There's just Spats. Good old-fashioned Spats has great food. Parker John's, Mondo. Yeah, I mean, so many.
Yes.
Where is the only one I'm not familiar with? The Forge Kitchen and Parlor. Where is that?
That is a new one to me. I have not checked that one out. So
I can't either. I don't have a link up on
right.
them. So, well, shout out Forge Kitchen, whoever you are. I'm going to have to do some exploring.
We're going to have to try to figure who they are. I like to get to new restaurants here and there. So that's one that I haven't been to yet. So we have to check that one out for sure.
We'll start with just finding where they're located.
That's always how it starts. Speaking of starting.
Yeah.
I guess it's time to start this podcast.
Yeah, let's do that. We're getting a little old look at new and shoot the breeze with Kegan. It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and/or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, it is time for that look at history. Who is it sponsored by, Joe?
Oh, Raleigh Winter and Associates, Tosh.
We're going to throw that out there right away this time. Good old Raleigh
call.
Winters and Associates enjoys this look at history as much as we do. So, Joe, what is your old look at new this week?
Tasha, I love the old look at new simply for this reason, because usually Sunday morning I have my cup of coffee and I just scroll, just looking for ideas. If I don't have any of my notes for the different segments that we do, I stumbled across this one and I knew instantly I had to do it. Now, an old look at new, typically we look at northeastern Wisconsin, but I'm going a little bit further south to Soldier Field. We all know what that is. It's 1954 Soldier Field, so you don't have the spaceship-looking thing that they have now. But you and I remember, right, going to the game of the old columns, right, the stone columns.
Absolutely.
So picture that, 1954, they built an artificial ski jump was constructed there. This thing is freaking insane. So on the roof of those arches,
which is still there,
right? They're still there. So think of the 50-yard line. You're sitting there. So the middle of these arches, they've got this huge scaffolding built with the ramp. So that's the jump. I mean, this thing's huge. The landing area is attached to this ramp. It goes over the crowd. So think about that. If you're sitting in the 50-yard line, you have this huge ramp going over your head that lands on the field. They trucked in a ton of snow for that. And it was unbelievable, but they filled the place up. The stadium was packed.
Wow.
People had stories. Yeah. It basically was a showcase for Chicago's enthusiasm to show that, the world that they were enthusiastic about winter sports. And they were predominantly obviously known for football and things like that, but they wanted to let people know that, hey, we're open to anything, including ski jumping. But it's the craziest thing I ever saw. And in 1954, they packed Soldier Field and they ski jumped.
Nice.
Incredible, Tash.
Excellent. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Ski jumps at Pierce Park and ski jumps at Soldier Field. All right.
All right. Yeah, you go back. We're deep into ski jumping. They still have them actually up in, it's been a while since I've been to Minnesota, but I've seen them a couple of times to be driving through the towns and all of a sudden up on kind of a bluff, there's this huge structure and it's a ski jump. So you got to love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would never go down one though. No, you couldn't pay me enough money to get down one.
We'll have to do a little digging, but I believe there's one up in northern Wisconsin as well. I can't remember the city, but I do remember that there's some training that's been done there, and it could be upper Michigan also. But they do some Olympic type training at one of these as well.
Well, stay tuned to an old look at new, because you never know. We're deep into ski jumps right now, Tosh. Well, at least I'm into ski jumps. How about you, though? What are you going to take a look at this week?
Well, this one's a shout out to you, Joe. We're going back to March 2nd, 1855.
Nice.
And the first post office of Ashland, Wisconsin was opened and was known as Whittlesey, which is named after the founder of Ashland, Asaph Whittlesey. So
Whittlesey.
Yeah,
that's a great name.
Yeah.
Great name.
Yeah, think about if you haven't been to Ashland, Wisconsin, I mean, it's, a 5-hour drive from here. It's up there, northern Wisconsin. Imagine getting up there in 1855 to deliver mail.
Oh. So they were the first post office?
It said the first post office of Ashland. So I would assume that was probably one of the first post office up in northern Wisconsin like that.
Yeah. Boy, I can't even imagine. I feel like if we get our mail late, try to get it cased in, I can't even imagine what it was like in 1855.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely not. So I just thought that was cool. It came across the history wire as I look at it and try to find stuff for the old look at new. And I thought, this one will be a shout out to Joe.
I love it. You think they have any right side sitting horse back saddles?
I'm pretty sure they had skis.
Yeah,
snowshoes.
No kidding, huh? Put your satchel on with that'd be actually kind of fun. Satchel and snowshoes. Go to town. Just have ripped legs.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we mentioned it earlier, but this is sponsored by Joe.
Raleigh Winter and Associates, the fine folks there in commercial real estate. Check them out.
It is time for our interview with Kegan Gennrich, MMA fighter, state champion out of Hortonville, runs his own wrestling club and MMA fighting. This is our second interview with Kegan as he prepares for his April 11th fight with the LFA. And it's fantastic. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to get a little bit deeper into Kegan and his training, and sit back and enjoy. Let's talk a little bit about your last fight and start out doing that.
Yes, I recently, would have been January 25th, a couple weeks ago now, won my second professional MMA belt down in Madison on a local promotion called Chosen Few that I had fought for a couple times earlier in my professional career. And it went really well. I fought another wrestler, former UW lacrosse athlete, and had a really good showing in a brand new weight class. I moved up from lightweight to welterweight, so I moved up a division and kind of proved I could do it against a bigger opponent too, which I thought which was important to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because last time we talked to you about a year ago, you were like 155, right?
Yeah, almost all of my fights in my career have been at lightweight at 155. And this opportunity came up at a different weight, and I had been having a hard time finding the right fight at lightweight, so it made sense, and it turned out really well. I think that's probably my future weight class moving forward.
Okay. Yeah. So 170. So you're in Madison. You're fighting. A couple of questions. The Chosen Fighting Championship, is that like a league? Is that a new thing? Are you still with the LF fighting too?
LF, I will be. That I'm sure we'll get there, but my next fight is going to be back on LFA April 11th. I'm going to fight on LFA 206 at Mystic Lake Casino in Minnesota. So that's next. Chosen Few has been a promotion that's existed in the Madison area for probably over 20 years now. It's been around a long time. Really solid people, take great care of the fighters. It's kind of one of the more classy, family-friendly local MMA shows that I've been to. They put on a good show. It's a good. It's at the Monona Terrace, a beautiful building right on the lake there. I always have a good time.
It looked really cool. I watched it today on YouTube or whatever. It was awesome. I mean, you took a shot like right off the bat, Carlson. Like, I mean, you took a shot to the face, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. The proof is right there on the video. There's no denying that he kicked me right in the head. He sure did. But I stayed on my feet and collected my thoughts pretty quickly thereafter, and I didn't feel very affected the rest of the fight. It's not something that lingered with me over the round, but I definitely had a nice goose egg right above my ear.
Yeah.
In the days following, he definitely left his mark on me. So I'll give him that. I got him back though, I think, by the end.
Oh my God, his face was a bloody pulp. I mean, under that eye, it was gushing at times. During between rounds.
You end up kind of feeling bad for your opponent sometimes afterwards, but especially in this one, he's a school teacher. He had to go to school. He had to go back to school with his face all busted up. So I was feeling kind of bad for him about that.
Yeah, but I mean, you dominated him, and in my opinion, you're on top of him the whole entire match.
Yeah, that little slip up where I got kicked in the head early, and then my coach's advice following that first round was to close the distance and take away that space. And in taking away that space, you usually end up taking away most room for error. It's hard to get kicked in the head again when you're on top of them the rest of the fight. So I thought that was good advice from my coach to stop playing around on the outside quite so much and get in there. Was pleasantly surprised with how well I was able to wrestle him. Going into the fight, most critics thought that the wrestling would be pretty even in the fight, and that's what would make it an interesting contest. But it ended up being kind of a wipeout in the wrestling. So I think I need to maybe be a little bit more confident in my wrestling moving forward, because even I wasn't sure. That's why I was probably doing too much striking to start. I wasn't sure I would overpower him like that. But after I grabbed him for the first time, I had a good idea that I could continue along that route the rest of the fight.
Did I witness a composure timeout there too? The commentator said you had a composure timeout.
I got kicked in the cup. For the first time in 20 plus fights, I was on the wrong end of a low blow. So that was about 20 seconds into the fight. So we had just really barely got started, and then we were going from there.
Yeah. So it's head blow, kicked in the nuts, and then the fight begins, right?
Yeah. Had to wake me up a little bit, maybe.
So we talked a lot last time about your training. How different was your training to be at that higher weight level?
Training was, very similar, but I felt like maybe I was able to do a little bit more volume, or at least be feeling more refreshed and more recovered, like I was maybe getting more out of my workouts every time, because I was fully fueled, fully rested, fully recovered, rather than I'm in a super calorie deficit for 6 to 8 weeks, and you're kind of hurting and crabby from being on a diet, and then trying to, train on top of that is not a delightful experience. So I think I just felt a lot stronger and a lot fresher. I think maybe with a little bit more meat on my bones, a little bit more mass, I was taking maybe like less small injuries throughout camp. Not taking so many nicks, small injuries. I get skinny and I feel like I maybe get hurt a little bit more, but it was good. I felt like I was probably able to train a little bit harder because I didn't have to worry about being on a diet and being low on fuel.
So did that help then? I mean, you talked about what you ate and how you at certain times you knew how much you had to cut. So did your diet, did you increase your calorie intake and stuff as well to keep at that higher weight?
It was very much an opposite experience from what I typically do, because I had to eat almost more than I wanted to keep my weight at an optimal range for this new weight class. And the other trick is when you don't really quote unquote have to be on a diet, there's more room to cheat it, like, well, I could eat a piece of pizza, or I could have French fries and still make weight, but there's a difference, in lifting terms. The kids these days on the internet would call it like a dirty bulk versus a clean bulk. So I was having to eat almost more food because it was clean, healthy food, rather than stacking up calories, eating donuts and, crazy stuff like that. So I had to eat a lot of like eggs and steak and eggs, and which definitely was way better than the other option. But yeah, it was very much a different experience trying to keep weight on.
Price of eggs will cost a guy a buck or two.
Oh man, I think the price of eggs doubled from my last fight. It's really hurt. Really hurt.
Yeah, you feel bad for the little diners. Yeah, I have to ask you. And this is, I'm sure, a dumb question, but your corner when you were in the fight, you don't sit down between rounds. You don't even really have a trainer or anybody come out. You're just kind of by yourself. The other guy's sitting on a chair, kind of the traditional boxing guy where the guy's patching his eye, things like that. Is that normal for you, or is what happens in those moments? So
typically for me, I prefer not to take a seat. I've done that my whole career. I feel like it's harder to get up once you take a seat. Those legs are a little bit heavier coming off the stool. So I would rather just stay on my feet, pace it off, shake it out a little bit. I don't sit down between rounds when I train. So why would I do it in the fight? So for me, it's maybe a little bit of a mental edge, and maybe a little bit of a physical edge. I don't feel as sluggish standing up. Sometimes when you get real tired, it's hard to get up off that stool. Legs get real heavy. But typically my coach, Nick Thompson, comes in the cage. And if you watch on the video, he's right there on the other side of the cage. And I think in that fight, you might have seen him come in towards the later rounds if he felt like things were getting a little out of control. But I think he felt like things were so in control. And that was kind of almost his way of portraying his confidence in me through that. And I think I kind of felt that, like, things are going so well. There's just stick to what we're doing right now. If we had to make adjustments, or he felt like I needed a kick in the pants or something like that, I'm sure he would, because he's gotten in there before and gotten in my face and told me very clearly, explicitly, what I need to do. And I think he felt like we were so in control, and him doing that, I almost, I could feel that in the moment, and definitely after. He's over there with 4 coaches trying to put him together for the next round, and we're just kind of getting warmed up over on our side. So I think if things would have taken a more sketchy turn towards the later rounds, I think you might have seen him get in there. In the past, he's definitely been in there, but we never sit on the stool. So that was typical.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I get that. Yeah, that getting off the chair gets worse the older you get. The other question I had too, just right before the fight, the referee brings you guys out for the bump up or what, I'm not sure what you call that, but it basically turns into a stare down. Are you guys trash talking? Is there an etiquette to that? What's happening then?
I haven't really ever experienced trash talk in that moment. There's not much to say at that point, because you're about to find out for real in about 5 seconds. So you might have been trash talking for weeks and months before that, but really it's all about to get settled. And I think it's kind of that tipping point where everything's about to spill over. I think you're trying to portray confidence and a little bit of a game face in all of those face-off situations, but it's not something I take overly seriously. I don't, at that level, I don't think you're winning or losing a fight based on mean mugging a guy.
Right. So
I'm not thinking about a whole lot probably in those moments. It's really all about to tip off. But that's an interesting point of time from the time you get locked in that cage to the time things are finally starting. There's definitely a few minutes of the anticipation building, and then you meet in the middle and he gives those final instructions. And usually the tell on whether there was bad blood or not is if you touch gloves at that point. Usually most guys are touching gloves, and then you go back to your corner and you fight. If the ref says you can touch gloves now and you see the guys not touch gloves, then there might be some previous beef that they needed to settle.
Do you know most of your opponents, or are you just coming to it fresh?
I don't normally know them very personally. As pros, we do quite a bit of cross training. So I've been in Garrett's gym and trained with some of his teammates before. So I know him through like second and third hand connections. But I would say I'm pretty familiar with most fighters I run across, because I'm really doing my homework and kind of scouting most guys that I feel like could be potential, opponents, whether they're in my weight class or they're in the region, or we're kind of on similar paths in the rankings. I try to, and if I'm not training, really, I'm watching fights just for fun anyways. So I've seen Garrett fight 3 or 4 times, not in person, but just from watching fights even before we got scheduled, just because, I knew that, one, I'm watching the fights anyways, and 2, I knew that could be a guy I could potentially see someday. So he definitely has been on my radar a little bit for a while.
Does moving to the 170 class, a different class for you, would you say that's going to, obviously every opportunity is going to be new, but do you think your path do you see maybe a better path going through that weight class?
I think maybe it gives me a little bit more longevity, where I can stay a little bit fresher mentally and physically, not having to do that big, huge weight cut a few times a year. So I think that's a little bit better for me longevity wise. And then the idea of moving up originally was to show the UFC that I'm available to fight in 2 different divisions. So kind of doubling my odds. They could call me for a 155-pound fight, or they could call me for a 170-pound fight. And to me, that makes sense, just kind of increasing my odds as much as I can. So
so are you still, I think last time, if I'm remembering correctly, you could be given like up to a 3-week notice to fight in UFC. Is that kind of still for you?
So I'm kind of a bubble guy. I'm kind of like the best bat or the best pitcher on the AAA team, that's just kind of in limbo, and you might get up and you might never get up. So it's kind of the tricky part of the game, but that's a good segue actually. And it's been a kind of a roller coaster this week. Last week, Thursday, my agent called about, he thought there was going to be a possibility for me to fight in the UFC this weekend. At UFC Seattle, and, I was pumped about that. I obviously said yes right away, and ended up, the opponent that thought was going to pull out with injury ended up deciding to fight through his injury. So I've had a couple situations like that since we've talked last, where I thought my card was getting pulled and it was the time, but it's, then even after that opponent would have to agree to take the fight on his end. So there's a lot of things that got to go right, kind of for it to happen, but I'm knocking on the door, and that's all I can ask for at this point.
When you come up to a quick window like that, is this 170-pound weight class a more natural weight class for you then? So if you have 3 weeks to train, you're going to be a better fit?
Yeah, I would. It gives me an opportunity to take those short notice fights on much less of a time period. If I was talking about making 155, now we're talking about 6 to 8 weeks of time, maybe 4 to 6 if I really packed it in. But I could make, 170 in a couple of days. It's that is another advantage of that, for sure. I just fought, so really I didn't really have time to get out of shape yet. I went right back to training, and I just fought a 5-round fight. So I felt like timing wise, it was pretty good.
Okay.
Are you pretty much, you're pretty much forced then to pretty much stay in fighting shape year round, or till you get the call? Or
that is the advice that my managers are giving me at this point of the game, or really to anyone. There's a lot of guys in my situation like that yes, they are. And that's a tough way to live. In fight camp all the time. trying to stay in fighting shape. It's pretty rough, but yeah, that's pretty much where I've been at. This last year I've done three 5-round title fights in a row now, which is the equivalent of five normal fights. So balancing that with the long training camp to get ready for a fight like that has been a lot. But yeah, you're exactly right. That's trying to stay ready so I don't have to get ready.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's nuts. So you're basically in fight camp. Then you live fight camp. That's your life now.
I took a week off. After I fought, I busted my hand up pretty good on his face in the first round of that fight. So really I couldn't have trained really if I wanted to, for about a week. So I kind of had a forced week off, which was probably good. But usually I'm a week, 5 to 7 days, little break, and then back at it. Cause I have teammates that are going to have fights coming up too. So they help me get ready. So it would be pretty lame of me to not return the favor for them. So
you're still going to like Milwaukee and that to train as well? Or
I was in Milwaukee this morning. Yep. I trained in Milwaukee this morning and then drove back up home and did some strength and conditioning. And then I just got done teaching. So I'm just wrapping my day up now.
Well, that's a good segue too. Let's talk a little bit about your facility. Yeah. I mean, I could talk to you all day about MMA. I mean, that would be great, but how's the facility doing? How you got good numbers coming in and good kids?
Yeah, we are. It's been an exciting year for our fight team. I've not been the only one that's won belts. We've had a couple of training partners win belts as well, and that is, I take a lot of pride and said outside of fighting, I'm really a teacher at heart. So seeing my students have success. Actually, the night that I fought last, one of my training partners, apprentices, whatever, one of my main training partners, someone I've really taken under my wing, he fought on an LFA card at Mystic Lake the same night. And it was, in my opinion, kind of a 50-50 fight, a toss-up, and our guy, and this was before I fought, so he kind of had to get the night started, right? He was the leadoff hitter. And he went out and knocked the guy out in the second round and had a huge win. So that really set the tone kind of for my night, which was really exciting for him. So to see him be fired up and to see him really work for it and then get his moment, because I really beat the crap out of him for a lot of weeks in our training. We were fighting on the same night, so our training camp was very much synced up the whole time. So to see him go through that and then get that moment was really cool.
Do you still watch the Food Network on cable TV at Mystic Lake?
I didn't do quite as much this time because I wasn't missing the food, but I will definitely take advantage of some free cable TV when I get out to Mystic Lake again. I always joke that I have a very relaxing stay until I got to fight someone at the end of the weekend. So I am looking forward to going back out there. I feel like Mystic Lake has been good luck for me. I have not tasted defeat out there yet, so I always feel good about that. I had some of my biggest moments in my career out there, so I'm definitely looking forward to getting back out there. Be another serious test. The guy I'm fighting is another former LFA title contender, so he fought for a belt in the past. I've won a belt for them, and he's fought for a belt for them, so it's a pretty heavy duty matchup coming up.
Cool. You talk about all these belts, and word on the street is you won one of these belts, and somebody took it from you. It got stolen.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I replaced it though. That was my motivation going into my last fight. It was so I've got a couple of championship belts, and then for that organization in Madison for Chosen Few, they give like a mini belt for the fight of the night participants. And in the past, I had won a fight of the night, and it got burglarized. Earlier this year, unfortunately. But I replaced it, and it is safely at home. So we're gonna keep it there for now. But my belts are hanging up, my belts are hanging up at my dad's house, so I know they're safe over there.
Jeez. Have you been? I mean, you mentioned your dad, and your dad's still coaching at Hortonville, and I actually got to watch him coach. I was at the FVA duels.
Mm-hmm.
And watch that. So have you been involved with any of the high school wrestling or doing some, whenever you can, doing some stuff with them?
I have some private lesson, like some students I do some private training on, some regular clients for that. And then obviously the Hortonville guys are my guys. Like I'll go out there anytime and hang out with my dad. I have obviously a very close bond with the Hortonville team. I want to work with kids from all over the area.
Sure.
So I try to. I'm not officially on the Hortonville staff, is what I'll say. But those are my guys. I am super proud to be a Hortonville wrestler. The culture that my dad has built there over the last 25 years is something that I'm proud of. That everyone that's been a part of it is really proud of, and I really think it is a big part of what makes me the fighter I am, is the toughness and the fight that I learned out there. But my dad is I'm glad you got to see my dad in his element. He is an intense individual, but he is a legend in Hortonville. Everyone has a lot of great things to say about it, so that makes me really proud.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your pods or sharing the Newsa-Cast. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram. Northeastern Wisconsin Sports Advancement is a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness for youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through 3 initiatives: the Every Kid Plays Grant, the Gives Back Initiative, and scholarships to student athletes. Do you see, are there any other kids that are kind of following your path that are going the MMA route?
I have some wrestlers that have done some training, and I have some students that are currently wrestling in college that I could see do it. And actually, the fighter that I was talking about who got the big knockout a couple weeks ago, Brett Whitman, is a former Kimberly wrestler, wrestled at Clarion University Division I, and is now back home in the area. And Brett has been training with us at Team FEGC since he's about 12 years old. So that would be one very specific answer. And then I have another athlete with me, Trey Leone, who was a state champion at Kaukauna High School, from the powerhouse of Kaukauna Wrestling, won an NAIA collegiate championship in college at the University of Cumberland, and now in his training and fighting with me. So yeah, I am seeing a few wrestlers from the area come back to the area and then are now involved in training with me. I would almost rather they come to me and ask to fight. I wouldn't necessarily recommend fighting as a professional trade to really anyone, just because I've been involved in it, and I know it's not good for you. It's really not good for you. So I absolutely will work, with my friends that clearly have a passion for it and want to do it. But I'm telling my students, go to college, get a good job. If you want to do this on the side, then do it. But I would, not recommend making this your only pathway. It's worked out really well for me, and I've been able to make it kind of my whole life, but there's certainly a price to be paid for it as well. So
yeah,
but I kind of feel there's really no bigger pocket of wrestling when you take Hortonville, Kaukauna, Freedom, Wrightstown, all these legendary you know, high school wrestling programs, and then the popularity of MMA. I almost feel like it's a sort of a, I don't want to say hotbed, but you feel like maybe a couple of kids would and then maybe they are, you know, would have interest in it and be good at it.
Yeah, we've got a couple of them, and I certainly think we'll continue to get a couple more as some of my students make their way through college, or, you know, I ended up going to college for a year, wrestled for the Badgers for a year. Hindsight being 2020, I probably could have gone right into fighting and skipped going so far into debt with student loans.
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we will have some kids that choose to take that path, and I think the good thing about that is I'll be able to give them a very honest opinion of what I think about it, and I've really experienced almost everything there is to experience as a professional fighter. So I think I'll be able to give them some really blunt and honest assessments on whether if it's for them or not, because it's certainly not for everyone. But I do feel good that if these students or these athletes do really want to go into this, we have someone in the area that has done it at some of the highest levels that can help them, you know, be prepared and have the same kind of success. It's always easier to do something if you can see someone else do it, the process that they're
no doubt
going about it with. And
I mean, being, you know, having a few years under my belt, I think of like you know, growing up, there was never MMA, but there was baseball, and there was only a couple of guys from Appleton or the Fox Cities that ever made it in Major League Baseball, you know, big league ball. So even the, you know, quote, most popular sport, baseball, it's really, really tough to make a living being professional at anything in sports.
It is, and I think this has happened since the last time we talked. But interestingly enough, one of my Little League baseball teammates and class of 2012 mates at Hortonville, Caleb Bousley, pitched in the season finale against the Cubs 2 seasons ago and got the win. Came in in the ninth, and they ended up getting the win late. So he ended up striking out 5 and getting the win over the Cubs to knock the Cubs out of the playoffs at Miller Park. Struck out 5 in like an inning and a half. Absolutely rocked it. But Caleb has been playing minor league baseball for 10 years. So kind of seeing him go through that long grind and then get his big moment certainly lit a fire or gave me a little bit of a boost to see him doing that, knowing that, you know, there is a light at the tunnel potentially. And but Caleb now he's gone on. He was up with the Twins a little bit this last year, but still up and down. So he's been grinding it out. So I think I was able to take a little bit of motivation from that. But it's highly competitive, and like I said, you could be the best player in AAA and never get called up. So I'm just trying to make the most of the fights and make the most of getting to live this fighting lifestyle. Well, it's, you know, it's still a thing for me because it won't always be someday.
Yeah. I mean, last time you talked about you're in your prime and you thought, you know, 32-ish or maybe a year or two after that, but somewhere in there that, you know, you mentioned maybe that, you know, just the decline happens. You get older. It just happens to everybody. But ultimately, I mean, Tosh talked about your dad being a teacher and a coach for so many years. I mean, is that ultimately where you see yourself in 20 years or whatever, is just you just ultimately coaching kids and being that teacher?
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised if I ever, you know, really walk away from being on the mats. I would imagine from my professional fighting career, I'll just have more time to coach and do things like that. My goal is kind of never to have to get a real job. So if I could stay in coaching and stay in teaching and make that my full-time thing. Recently, I've been blessed with some opportunities to travel and do some seminars and some camps elsewhere. So trying to build my brand. I'm going to try to get my own website online and released this year, and just got a line of t-shirts put together where I can start selling some merchandise and stuff. So just trying to maximize my opportunities while I still can in fighting. But yeah, coaching is in my blood, and I really got to learn from one of the best ever, in my opinion. My dad's an incredible coach, and my mom is an amazing teacher as well. She's going to retire from the Oshkosh School District this year after many, many years of teaching. So I really think teaching comes pretty naturally to me. I've been around it my whole life. So I look forward to having more time to spend on my students moving forward. Fighting is kind of a selfish sport at the highest level, so I'm looking forward to having some more time to pour into my students and things like that.
Yeah, I'm incredible. It's a terrific story. I'm sure your parents as proud as can be, no doubt. And the kids are lucky too, and the sport's lucky to have you. But we don't want to shoo you off too soon because you still have prime fighting years left in you.
Yeah, I'm really, really trying to make the most of it while I can. I know it's not going to last forever, so I'm trying to make it a huge priority in my life. In between my last 2 title fights, I left my other job that I was doing 20 or so hours a week, and really just kind of going all in on the fighting stuff. And just gonna it's a pretty cool lifestyle to be able to just train and fight and teach from time to time. So I'm gonna really enjoy it while I can.
Yeah, no doubt. You got to just stop having 5-round fights.
Man, yeah, you tell me about it. The catch-22 is the 5-round fight really suits my style. It's my strong. It probably favors me more than the 3 rounds, my style, but it is pure pain every time. People were surprised that I was so sore after this last one. They're like, you were beating him up the whole time. I'm like, well, I was still using my body to hit him. Well, I'm sure he's more sore. I don't mean to say it like that. I felt like I was in a car accident for sure. It was a long week to hobbling around.
Does it take a solid week to feel just? You probably never feel normal, but I mean, just to at least just get that initial car accident feeling out of you.
Yeah, there's been some fighters kind of on record talking about the after weekend and how hard it can be, and especially after a loss. After a win, you're beat up and your body's trashed, but at least you won. If you lose and you feel like that, then you're really feeling down about it. But even off of a win, there's kind of like a come down, or almost like a post-fight depression that a lot of fighters talk about going through. You're at 100 out of 10 on the excitement level, and now you kind of go back to real life and things slow down a little bit. So it's kind of a little bit of an adjustment there, getting back into your regular routine, realizing that, life goes on either way. But the thing I think that multiplies feeling sore for me is I rarely sleep the night of my fight. I just am either too sore or too worked up, or that adrenaline rush hasn't kicked off, and I rarely sleep. So by the time I fall asleep the next day, it has kind of multiplied, and then it's kind of a long week from there, getting back to feeling healthy. So yeah, it's almost always not a good time, and I'm grateful to have either my fiance or my family around to kind of help me through those moments after the fight and the day after the fight, trying to get home from the fight. It's a lot.
You had mentioned, it impressed me a lot. You mentioned you don't drink, and that's awesome. Is it, I don't know if prevalence the right word, but are there other fighters that drink? Would they use, is that kind of the time? Is that kind of a pain agent for them?
Yeah. Or a sleeping agent, right? I think about my dad talks about having a mixer so he can calm down after a wrestling match or something like that. So I would imagine that would be something that works for some folks. I'm trying to think. I had pizza. I had pizza to celebrate. Ian's pizza was what I had that's what I had on my mind for a while. So it didn't quite cut the edge like old fashioned would, I would imagine, but I was.
Yeah, pizza's pretty damn good, I tell you.
It was good. It tasted good.
Are you going out to some of the regionals and sectionals for the high school wrestling and checking out some guys and seeing some kids you've probably worked with?
Right. I was at the FEA conference meet a couple weekends ago and saw a few of my students there, and then Hortonville was way over in Wisconsin Rapids this last weekend. So I definitely did not make the trip to Rapids. I would imagine I'll be at sectionals in Menasha on Saturday. The other athlete, and I know you have some FVL connections, Austin Kuffner is having a really outstanding season for FVL this year, and that is one of my students, and I've been going out to FVL. I've been out to FVL about once a week this season, so I'm looking forward to seeing how Austin's season accumulates here as well. We've been training in the new building out there, and it is
it's beautiful.
Quite something. Yeah, it smells like a new car.
That's awesome. Yeah, there should be some good matches coming up. I mean, this is the prime time. This is fun to watch. You know, every match is a grind, and these young athletes are it's incredible to watch them. It really, truly is.
Yes, their hard work keeps me fired up, keeps me motivated. I don't want to be the coach that is, running his mouth about something I'm not willing to back up. And really, I learned that from my dad. The guy still has the most energy and hustle in the room to this day, but especially back then. So I try to lead by example. But yes, some of the dedication and talent, they're just getting maybe a little bit more serious about it at an earlier age maybe than I was 20 years ago. And I'm a good wrestler, but I'm mostly doing MMA these days. So, when I put on the wrestling shoes, there's some wrestlers in the area, man, that I would hate to admit getting beat by a 17-year-old in a wrestling match. But there's guys out there like Jacob Herm this year at Nina, Liam Crook. Those guys wrestle like grown men. So I made the comment out loud when I was at the FEA conference meet that the level of talent in the area this year is, and it has always been that way, and even recently, but there's a crop of wrestlers in our area this year that are really, really outstanding. So I'm looking forward to getting to sectionals at Menasha, I believe. And my dad's got all the stats in the world, but I think at the Menasha sectional, there's 3 of the top 6 teams in the state in that sectional. Hortonville, Kaukauna, and Wisconsin Rapids are all really highly ranked.
Well, Kegan, I know you've got 100,000 things going, so we appreciate hanging out with you here for a little bit. And so I guess just what is next for you? Do you know when your next fight's going to be exactly? Yeah,
I do April 11th, Mystic Lake Casino, Minneapolis, Minnesota, LFA 206. I guess we can do. We'll save the name. We'll save the name so I can. I've been teasing it on my social media, so we'll save the name. But I did say that he's a former LFA title contender. So if anyone can do their homework and figure it out, and make a correct guess, that would be pretty good. But yes, I do know when I'm fighting. I'm back in training camp. I always try to get a full 8 weeks, and right now I'm at about 7.5. So I've been switched back into training camp mode. Said goodbye to the French fries and the fried chicken and the chicken wings for a few months. But yeah, excited to have another fight booked. Like I said, I thought I was going to get my UFC opportunity. But outside of that, LFA is really, I've made this comparison a few times, like the G League of the NBA. There's really no better place to be if you're trying to get the UFC to catch your eye. And I'm fighting another highly regarded opponent. So it's kind of been my MO, my strength of schedule in comparison to my peers is head and shoulders better than most guys. So I'm looking forward to just testing my level and proving my level. Again, it's going to be a super competitive, tough fight. So the next 7.5 weeks, I got a lot of training to do. But I'm looking forward to it. Every fight, I feel like I get a little bit more experience, a little bit more mentally strong and prepared just from all the experience. So I'm excited about it, feeling good about it. With the crazy thing, and I should probably get this mindset behind me as this fight comes up. But the guy I thought I was going to fight in the UFC this week on a short notice probably would have been an easier fight than the guy I'm going to fight in LFA in a couple months. So it's just kind of that tough spot where all of the prospects are here's the UFC and here's the prospects, and we're all trying to make that last jump.
Right.
So it's kind of the LFA is a shark tank in some of those divisions. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to have that. It's a big platform. So
good.
If I'm going to fight, I might as well, fight the best and fight there. And
yeah,
we'll see
keep the streak up. You're in a good spot now. You're performing well. You're hitting your groove.
I feel good and feel good about being able to put all my time into it. And just gonna keep the ride going for as long as I can. That it's an interesting spot in LFA 2 where everyone's kind of trying to figure out if we're gonna keep doing this or if we're gonna not. Like, are we gonna keep testing the wall? Are we gonna keep grinding away? Like, it's very much, almost every fight is very much a crossroads fight, which almost adds a lot of intensity and there's a lot on the table for everyone at that level. You're this close to making it, and if you don't make it, is it time to go back to school? Whatever plan B is. So this last fight against Carlson kind of felt like that for me. It was a fight I was kind of favored and expected to win and handle business in. So if that wouldn't have gone my way, it would have felt like a very serious setback, and I probably would have been, maybe questioning what's next. Do I want to keep putting, all my time and brain cells into this, or not? So that's kind of an interesting part of the LFA experience too, is everyone is right on the cusp. So everyone is super hungry and there's a lot on the line for everyone. So it'll be an exciting fight.
Keep pummeling people's faces like Carlson's. That thing was a bloody mess.
Man, that's the game. That's the best case scenario every time. If I could rinse and repeat that one for the rest of my career, I would be pretty happy with that. And I think my mom would probably be pretty happy with that as well.
Are your parents a nervous wreck during your fights? Do they watch your fights? Do they go to your fights? What do they do during your fights?
My mom has been at probably the last 3 fights. Her coming to the fights is a pretty recent thing. My mom is super stoic and super composed. So if she was nervous, it would probably be pretty hard to tell. She holds herself together pretty well. And my dad, as Tosh would have seen at the FEA duels, is a picture of intensity. So he is about the same character at the fights. He paces probably every inch of that stadium floor. He's fired up. I hear him when I'm in the cage sometimes, and just his presence there gets me fired up and ready to go. So between my oldest little brother is in my corner. Big Kelly is in my corner too. So all my siblings, my grandma and grandpa, aunts, uncles, mom, dad, girl. I had, almost my whole family was there. So that means a lot to me too, being able to do it with some really important people to me. There means the world to me, and I know that they support me win or lose. So having them to fall back on is pretty special, and I appreciate them being there for me, because I've watched my friends and even my training partners fight, and it is not fun. I couldn't imagine if my brother wanted to get in there. I would way rather get in there and handle it myself than have to watch someone I care about do it. So I try to put myself in their shoes. Sometimes I can't imagine it's a whole lot of fun most of the time.
I can't imagine. Is your dad, being a wrestling guy, is he a fan of the MMA? I mean, he's certainly a fan of yours, but what about the actual sport?
Yeah, he is. We grew up watching UFC and stuff together when I was coming up wrestling as a kid. So we've been watching it together for years. He I can't say he never cornered me, because he cornered me in my very first fight. And he hasn't since then. He just tries to leave that for my MMA coaches, but he's still very active in my training camps. He puts together some strength and conditioning. He pretty much runs the strength and conditioning side of my programming. So he very much has an eye on what I'm doing and has a part in training camp. And he's super passionate about it. He loves it. The first fight, he's in the corner and he's running the tablet as well. And I go to finish a submission. The arm bar, and he goes, "Break his effing arm, Kegan," on the tablet. And I'm like, Dad. I guess this isn't wrestling anymore, huh? But yeah, he's fired up, and he's intensity personified. So I think if MMA would have maybe been a thing back in his day, I think he probably could have been a pretty good fighter too. My dad is tougher than a 2x4 man.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you taking some time out here to talk with us, and we're totally in your corner. We can't wait to watch this one coming up in April, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the support. You guys reaching out and having me. I enjoyed chatting with you guys, and really, not just from you guys, but the support I have gotten in the community in recent years has been really cool too. And I'm a pretty humble, shy, quiet guy. So to have people come up to me kind of in public a couple of times in the last few years and recognize me from fighting has been super, super cool. And I really cherish those moments, because I know someday people aren't going to care at all. So when people take the time out of the day to ask me about fighting or say they recognize me, it means a lot to me. So it's been cool to get some support in the community as well.
No,
from you guys and
so
others.
You're teaching me. You're teaching me MMA, and I'm falling in love with it. I love watching your fights, and my oldest boy is a huge fan of UFC. So yeah, heck yeah, I'm becoming a fan. It's great to watch you, and Tosh and I love having you on. We'll have you on again. We're certainly going to watch your career unfold. It's going to be exciting over the next year.
Hopefully, we'll have some UFC stories to tell in the next year or so, and we can. That can be the next one. I can give you guys the scoop on the inside scoop on the UFC, hopefully, one of these days.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right, podcast listeners, it is time for the clip of our Banquet throwback. We're going to go all the way back to 2002, where we have the pleasure of listening to the one and only great basketball coach out of GB and Wisconsin. That is Dick Bennett.
Oh, Tosh, the Red Smith Banquet is filled with UWGB and Dick Bennett history. Mike Reese, who longtime chairman of the Banquet. Without him, you and I aren't doing the Newsa-Cast. He really put the Red Smith Banquet, that whole Noosa group, in a great spot to be able to give back to the kids like we're still able to do. But his roommate at Ripon College back, I don't even know what year, 50s or something like that, was Dick Bennett. And when Dick, who was at Stevens Point for a lot of years before the GB job, and he killed it there as well at that level. But Mike, and I remember telling a group of guys, him telling a group of guys, my dad being one of them, that, hey, we got to get tickets now. he's going to turn this program around. And boy, did he ever, right? Those runs that GB had making it to the Sweet 16 some years. His son Tony was incredible. So it was a pleasure to have him. Then he makes, the Final Four with Wisconsin. Right. I know it's not the most entertaining style of basketball, but it's fundamental, hardcore basketball. And
it is.
Yeah, I love the Bennetts, and it's great to have Dick at the Red Smith Banquet in 2002 and in many years, actually. He that wasn't the only year he was there.
Yep.
But
he was an inspiration for the all-time great shirt out of Wisconsin. They like to play it up a little bit, and many people did not know who Dick Bennett was, so they had a shirt made in 2004 that they're selling around State Street and campus that said, "You don't know Dick." So that was those were some awesome years. So remember, this is only a clip, though. Joe, where can you get the entire throwback?
Yeah, Sundays, Tosh. Well, you can get so many throwbacks, probably 70 of them already now that we have up on our Newsa-Cast YouTube channel. So please like and subscribe on that channel, or that they come across on socials. We run clips, but the Newsa-Cast YouTube page, go there. We have all of them up there. But every Sunday morning with your cup of coffee, we release a new one. Obviously, this week, Dick Bennett, last week, Gene Katie. So we got a little college basketball theme going with the tournament, and best time of year, Tosh, like we said, for college basketball. And Dick Bennett gave us a front row seat some years to the hysteria of postseason college basketball.
There you go. So sit back and enjoy. We hope you love it.
The Red Smith Sports Award Banquet.
The main reason that this banquet was established was to honor at least 10 local area people who might not have been honored for the job they do to help in sports.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport.
Who has made a significant contribution to sports in the state of Wisconsin.
And also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Tony for not including the Michigan State games that year. Judge, thank you for your marvelous introduction. What a thrill just to be associated with people who have won this award, people at this head table. Far more than ever dreamed of or expected or really deserved. I want to thank the committee for considering me, much less naming me. Mike Reese, as was mentioned, was my college roommate. And he said to me, "Bennett, stick with me and I'll take care of you." I thought that meant if I needed a good buy on a fire truck. I don't know, Mike, if everyone's going to agree with your influence on this one, but they're probably Marquette fans anyhow. I couldn't thank a committee without thinking of Danny Ornstein. Those of us who knew him, and many of you knew him much better than I, will always hold a forever green memory of Danny. There have been so many who have helped me as I began to think of possibly naming people. I realized if I did that, it would be unfair to the countless ones I would miss. But I think all of us need someone to affirm us at various times of our lives. They need to fan the flame, if there is one there, maybe to light it, but never to douse it. And I've had so many of those people in this wonderful state, and particularly in this wonderful region. Many of them were players who were always good people. I had a habit of choosing Wisconsin people when I recruited because I knew they would seldom let you down. There were so many who taught me. A number of them are here. My former coaches, people who hired me, who, as I said, fanned that flame of desire always, made me feel special, made me feel like I could indeed do something. I was never long on confidence. If you thought so, it was just bravado. It was just game face. But there were so many who were so good to make sure I felt good about what I was doing. And those people need to know they're always in my thoughts. Then there was my family, in particular my wife, who for 36 years made sacrifices, all through the high school years, 5 different high schools, 3 different universities, never really making a lot of money until the last year or two when the bonuses started to come in. Of course, I quit then, which was a very... She does remind me of that. She raised the kids. I was too on fire for my job. I needed to be at clinics. I needed to work camps. I needed to be sitting at the footsteps of the so-called masters. I needed to learn. I was hungry. I was like a sponge, and she took care of everything at home. I wish I had been a better father, but she basically raised those kids. I have remained thankful to this day that I was led into the coaching field because there is, in my opinion, no better classroom than the sports arena. I mean, when you think about what really matters, you think about stuff like teamwork and second effort and accepting roles and coming back tough and accepting defeat and winning humbly. Those are the things that matter. And in academic classrooms, you can write them on the board and you can define them. But in the sports arena, you have to live them. And the privilege of coaching is that you teach that stuff every day in the most exciting atmosphere that is possible. I miss that, perhaps more than anything else. Perhaps next to the association with the young men. I so dreamt of my son getting a chance to play in the NBA. I thought if he worked, if he approached it properly, if he did things the right way, stayed tough mentally, he would get that chance. And he did for 3 years. His injuries cut his career short. And finally, I dreamed that I someday so desperately wanted to coach in a Final Four. There is nothing more exciting in the mind of a college basketball coach than being a part of the Final Four. And it took the last year of my career, but it happened. As I thought, had I known the dreams would come true, I would have dreamt of winning a Final Four. And so all along, I felt the hand of God guiding me, a guy who knew his limitations, who never gave me more than I could handle at one time, who kept me where I was safe and gave me a chance to touch the divine. I thank you. I am so thrilled to be able to accept this award in northeastern Wisconsin, where I made my home, where I coached most of my career and where most of my friends are. Thank you so very much.
All right, Tosh, always love listening to Dick Bennett. That guy can motivate anybody, and we're deep into the basketball season, the most exciting time of year if you're a college basketball fan, for sure. Tosh, one thing before we get out of here, we like to always end with It's Forgotten, and I'm never forgetting, so what do you need to get off your chest here, and It's Forgotten?
I had the pleasure of Melissa and I went grocery shopping with our 5-year-old nephew, and I forgot what a pain in the arse it is to go grocery shopping with a 5-year-old. Oh my gosh. I mean, my boys are 19 and 16, so that was a while ago. Those memories have disappeared or been tucked back in a crevice somewhere deep back, and that was not an enjoyable experience.
No, Tosh, I feel for you. Those memories are long ago myself, but wow, that was. Did you open a box of something and just let them hold it and pay for it when you left?
We didn't. I should have done that. That was one of those classic. Here, have a cookie.
Great trick. Hack. It's a hack.
Yep.
For any parents out there, I saw sometimes we have a younger demographic on our socials. So if anybody catches this, just get a little thing of like graham cracker minis or something that's easy to hold on. That maybe takes them a bit to gnaw, and just here you go, open it up, and you're paying for an empty box at the register. But
hey,
yeah,
it works. Yeah, I could have used something like that. It was a forgettable experience, to say the least. So, Joel, how about yourself? What are you trying to forget?
Well, Tosh, I'm sure you made good choices during that trip. I made bad choices today when it came to my eating. You and I record on a Sunday. It's an off day for me, and I proceeded to make maybe 1.25 pounds worth of iron skillet smash burgers on Hawaiian buns, Tosh, and I absolutely crushed every last bit of it. I think it was pretty close to double-digit sandwiches I made, Tosh, but I ate every last bit of them. They were so good. I couldn't believe it. They were incredible.
Wow.
Super easy to make, and yeah, but I need to forget that I did that, Tosh.
So the body's feeling it.
Yeah. Some are saying the body's feeling it. The dog is still alive. That's good for various reasons. But yeah, need to bike myself over to Crunch early in the morning and start getting rid of all of those. But they were so good. I mean, the iron skillet, Tosh, is just or the cast iron skillet, not the iron skillet. The cast iron skillet is turned into my absolute favorite utensil. I use it all the time for everything.
All right. It is awesome. It's nice to use for sure.
It definitely is. Well, I'm never forgetting that, Tosh. Well, I forgot that I ate all of that, but I'm not going to forget the cast iron skillet.
Okay.
But for you, Tosh,
well,
I'm going to get there. I'm struggling to get out of it. Struggling to end this through.
I know where you're going, so I'll
never forgetting, Tosh. What are you never forgetting?
Well, I'm never forgetting. We had a little social media tease from Ledgestone that they're announcing their Wind Down Thursday night concert lineup this week.
Nice.
So I love going out there on Thursday nights. It's awesome. They have great music, great atmosphere. You bring your lawn chair, you grab a bottle of wine, some beer, whatever you choose, some good food trucks, and listen to some amazing music. So it'll be cool to see what their announcement is and who they're bringing on Thursday night to that hidden gem of a little area in Greenleaf, Wisconsin. But it is fantastic. I love Ledgestone, and Adam and Katrina there are doing a fantastic job, and looking forward to seeing who they're bringing.
Yeah, I can't, Tosh, I've never been there for that. You've talked me into it. I've heard from tons of people about it. I am getting there this summer. No question about it. I'm going to make it happen.
Fantastic.
More than once.
I have to see some shows. Absolutely.
Yeah, you and I will probably. Yeah, I need to go out there with you actually one time. So for sure,
Sounds like a good plan. I know. Diggstown guys get out there once in a while too. So I run into them every once in a while. So
yeah,
they're big fans of that venue as well. So I'm sure we'll probably talk about this next week and talk about who they're bringing. But Joe,
yeah,
we're going to throw it back to you. What are you never forgetting?
Tosh with a little plug for an upcoming show. I love it. You didn't catch that, right? Diggstown. Come on now. Love it. Well, Tosh, the one thing I'm not ever going to forget, I don't think anybody should ever forget this, but a world record was set. A world record was set by the Milwaukee Admirals for the most cowbells rung at once. The most cowbells rung at once happened on Friday night. Milwaukee Admirals at UW Milwaukee Panther Arena against the Admirals. There were 6,768 cowbells were rung, beating the previous record of 5,748, almost by 100. That was set in 2003 at Mississippi State. So they rung almost 6,800 cowbells on Friday night. So that was pretty cool, right? World record. You can't beat that.
That's pretty awesome. You can never have enough cowbell, according to Christopher Walken. So
that's right. That's right.
More cowbell.
Yeah, you know it. And, Will Ferrell, of course, in one of the all-time greatest sketches ever. No doubt about
fantastic.
It. Well, Tosh, my transition to get us off this show was not one of my all-time greatest moments in show history, but we made it to the end, Tosh. We got through the segments. We had a great time with Kegan. Looking forward to his fight coming up here in April. So we got through another one, Tosh.
Another good show and another one coming next week.
You got it. Perhaps Diggstown, some are saying, but who knows? You'll have to stay tuned. Anyway, Tosh, always a hoot. We'll see you folks next week.
Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Newsa-Cast. We'd really appreciate it if you hit up our social pages, subscribe, like, follow, and don't be afraid to engage. Head over to our YouTube channel to get exclusive content like the full interviews and speeches from the past Red Smith banquets.
A huge thank you to Diggstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig or find them on Spotify.